Welcome, TTB community. I am Bob Demena, and here with me, as always, is the incredibly stupendous Elliot Shibley.
Stupendous. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome, Elliot.
So, our episode today is with Jeannette Ceja. She is an award-winning bilingual travel journalist, TV host, travel advisor, and a global public speaker. And she combined her love for travel and over 10 years of work as a journalist and TV host into an internationally recognized company known as Jet Set with Jeanette. And she aims to assist and represent every traveler with a special emphasis on women, minorities, youth, and travelers with disabilities. And that is what our conversation today focuses on, the inclusivity of minorities in the travel industry and in general life.
Before we get into the episode, I want to give you our travel tip of the week very quickly. If you go to the CDC's website and you click the travel health on the top bar of their homepage and then type in your destination, you can then review a ton of health and safety information related to that destination, including vaccine requirements, travel notices, and even recommended packing lists. So highly recommend going there and checking that out before you book anywhere. So
good tip. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Again, before we get into the show, if you like the podcast and you find us entertaining, please consider giving us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you love the podcast, if you love Elliot and myself, please think about just subscribing and engaging on social media. As I've mentioned a ton on here, it really goes a long way in helping the growth of the show. Lastly, we offer consulting services. We are not just a podcast, but we do like to provide travel consulting services to you. We have a airline savings of 20% through our website. You can also buy the Traveler's Blueprint video tutorials where we help you navigate urban destinations, book airfare, sift through restaurant and blog research, lay out your itinerary, and then go through safety and local norms. Hint, or maybe like a spoiler alert, we do use the CDC's website for that tutorial. So
full circle.
Check that out if you're interested. Oh, so that's it for me. Without further introduction, please give it up for our next guest, Jeannette Ceja.
Welcome to the Traveler's Blueprint. Start designing your next adventure.
Jeanette, welcome to the Traveler's Blueprint podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be on here with you guys.
So this is your second appearance on the show. The first one was with one of our travel roundtable discussions for cultural appropriation. And we are now looking to talk to you about, representation in travel. You have a long history of being a journalist, being on TV, being a public speaker, and being an advocate for minorities and people that have disabilities in travel and in generally life. So let's just jump into it. How did you get into this aspect and why is this so important to you?
Such a great question. My why and the purpose why I do this is ever since I was a young girl, just watching shows, reading magazines, the newspaper, and not really seeing anyone that looked like me. And when I would turn the channel to Travel Channel, History Channel, Discovery Channel, I wouldn't see many women. If I did, I definitely didn't see many Latinas, if any. So when I was young, it kind of made me feel not seen. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I'm such, so happy. And this is such an important thing for me. It's not a passion. This is not a hobby. This is a lifelong purpose. I really have been doing this for impact, to make a difference and to help a movement, basically. So more people feel seen and they feel heard. And I feel it's just a representation of what our real world looks like.
Yeah. I think that's very important because our world, especially our country in particular, is very diverse, very mixed bag. And we touched on this in the episode with the Travel Roundtable, but I mean, we just don't see that. Like what we see in films, what we see on TV, what we see in ads, it's not a good representation of who we are as a people. It's a representation of, I guess, what we think we are. And it's mostly white men or white women that are the, not even the majority at this point, but the ones with power.
Yeah, and I feel with more representation, we're able to break a lot of the stereotypes that exist or outdated beliefs. Being a woman, being a Latina woman who was born in America, but kind of what our last discussion was on, I have, my Mexican culture. I'm very proud to be Mexican American with a hyphen, and embrace both cultures and both languages. I speak Spanish. So for me, it's really important to be able to share that and to show that exists, and just to break a lot of these stereotypes that exist out there. For example, if there is representation, it's not enough. And we're in 2020 moving to 2021. I feel it's long overdue. This year has been a year. What a year. But there have been some, positives. There's been a lot of awareness and a lot of attention to what's been lacking, to what needs improvement. So I feel in some way there is a silver lining, because there's a lot more awareness, not just in the US, around the world. I mean, there is movements around the world, like the BLM movement was global, and it's about time. I mean, we're 2021 is just a few days away. It's time for us to progress, to move forward. And, I don't know. It's just, it's time.
It's a cultural maturity that we need to move on. And we still have these mentalities of us versus them. And it's no more. I mean, we're so diverse that we can't have that. It can't be just an assumption of what that person is based on their looks. It needs to be getting to know them because they are different. We are all different. And you can't judge someone just on their past life, their parents, and where they came from.
Yeah, and different is beautiful. Diversity is beautiful. I think that's what makes traveling so amazing, is we learn, we grow. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it should be embraced, not, looked bad upon or excluded, not excluding anybody. It's more about uniting, including, embracing each other. And I think that's what travel does.
Absolutely.
I know social media gets a bad rap, but I think it deserves a little bit of credit for how people are understanding different cultures much easier than they ever have been before. Something about the ease of access and the accessibility to peer into other people's cultures, whether it's just someone's profile or whatever it is, that I think has enhanced or increased the momentum for this movement, at least in some way, right? And being able to utilize those platforms to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I think this year so many glass ceilings have been broken. I mean, we might have the first woman to go to the moon in NASA out of 12 astronauts that are women. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We're going to have, the U.S. is going to have the first female vice president. There's so many glass ceilings that are being broken, so many firsts, but in such a good way that we are progressing. So I'm very optimistic. I'm very hopeful for 2021 and beyond. I mean, we have been on a global scale through so much this year. We're still in the pandemic. Vaccine now is coming out, so there's light at the end of this tunnel. Like so many people, we're in this together, and ultimately we have one planet. So now more than ever, it's time to really unite and work together and just get along.
Yes, I mean, the end goal, I think you would agree, like in the future, far future, I guess, maybe hopefully not too far future, we'll be at a point in time where we act as a global civilization. We all are one giant global community, Earth community, whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's the ideal situation. That's like the end goal. Holding on to culture, obviously, but being able to acknowledge that we're all one, we're all together in this. That's a matter of squashing this primitive ideology, this like ancient ideology where you're very tribal. And that's sort of the roadblock that we are trying to push through to get to that end goal. So where do you think we are in that race? Like if 2020, we're here today and there's still a lot of issues to be had. The end goal is a global community where people don't hate you based on the land that you're born in. Where do you think we are?
That is such a deep and complex question. I wish I knew. We're how many billion people on this planet? I can only speak for myself as an individual. And I can say for myself that I am doing everything in my power, my personal and professional, to contribute to, be a source of, value and contribute to more inclusivity, more diversity, more unity. But I'm one person, right? We're billions and billions and billions of people. So it's going to take a collective effort to really make a difference, and consistency. Like, what happened this year has been happening for a long time. It's just been brought to the surface. I feel like 2020 was a year of revelation, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's up to us as individuals to be the change we want to see. I mean, that's like what Gandhi said, right? And it sounds really cliche, but it's true. I mean, it's going to take each one of us to, we're a drop in the bucket, but it's going to take each one of us to consistently do the work to make progress.
Yeah.
So it's up to each of us.
Can you talk about some of the projects and organizations you're working with to, improve and get better representation?
Of course. So also to tell you guys a little bit background about myself, I used to work in entertainment reporting, and I used to do sports as well. But my dream and always my purpose was travel, for the same reasons we were discussing, to break all the isms that exist, the ageism, sexism, racism, all those stereotypes, to bring people together instead of divide. So I have my brand company, which is Jet Set with Jeanette. And Jet Set with Jeanette, I put the with in there very specifically because I want to take you with me. It's not about me. It's a journey that I'm on, but I want to bring you with me. So just coming from that mindset, I'm also involved with other organizations like nonprofits, Free Wheelchair Mission, which donates wheelchairs to developing countries. Also Travel Unity, which is a nonprofit that helps tourism boards and brands and students and schools to increase diversity, inclusion, and equity in the travel industry. That I have been involved with for about 2 or 3 years. And I met Ronnie, the executive director of Travel Unity, at the United Nations. We were at a travel conference, and we were put in a design thinking group. And we had to come up with solutions for, ideas and solutions for the travel industry. At that time, it was focused on sustainability, which is still very important. And so I met Ronnie, and you could see his passion and purpose for Travel Unity. And so based on that, I was like, I want to get involved with what you're doing because it's aligned to who I am. And ever since then, I've been involved with Travel Unity, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. Who else? Synergy of Empowered Women, which is a nonprofit that helps women entrepreneurs, students to get scholarships to help with their businesses, to get capital. So I'm involved with them. I can't think. I'm involved with so many. National Association of Hispanic Journalists. I'm a member of their organization. So they're Hispanic journalists working in different media, and it's a nonprofit that helps you. We have a conference every year. We do events. So yeah, that's some of the organizations I'm involved with.
That's quite a laundry list.
Yeah, and Jeanette, can you help me understand exactly when you say you want to make travel more diverse? What specifically are you talking about? Are they the companies that offer travel? Like, what is it that you want to diversify?
I would say from my perspective, it's everybody. it's people within the travel industry, and it's companies and brands and just the general public that want to travel. I mean, it goes from the traveler and the travelers to me, to hotels, aviation, airlines, etc. It's, for me, it's everybody. Just bringing the more diversity, inclusion, equity, more representation. And as a woman in this industry for 10 years, I've been attending every travel conference. The LA Times used to have a travel conference. I used to attend to the New York Times. I would attend for 10 years. Many times I would go on my own. I'd be one of the few Latinas there, for example. I just wanted to do more and to speak about more about, for example, Latinos or Latinas or the Hispanic demographic, because I didn't see us represented, and I didn't see a voice out there as I do now, which is great. It's growing, and we're getting more voices out there.
Yeah.
But also as a woman, because as a woman who wants to travel and work and travel and has traveled, I feel that I've been asked questions that maybe you guys haven't been asked, or maybe you guys won't get asked.
I can almost guarantee you that there will be questions that have been asked to you that we will have never been asked and probably never will be asked.
Right. And there's a lot of outdated beliefs that exist there. Like, if you're a woman and you want to have a family, you have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
I've literally been told that. Or, or a guy who's told me, what man's going to want to date a woman who travels as much as you? I've heard all those things before, and it's hurt my feelings, but it's empowered me, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to fit in your little box of what I should or can be. I am me, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And second of all, it's no one's business. Why do I have to explain to people?
Exactly.
I do find it funny. Women need to explain themselves much more than men.
Yep.
It is. I notice it. I'm very aware of it. It's really odd. I don't understand it, but.
Jeanette, I think you'd really appreciate, one of our early guests on this show was the Jet Setting family.
Oh.
And, Bob, can you remind me their names?
Rod and Jess.
And they set out in, I think, the end of 2017 or early 2018, and they had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And they decided to sell their home in Colorado and Southeast Asia. And
Wow.
Rod and Jess are both Hispanic. I'm not sure exactly what their nationalities are, but they're great representation. Both their kids love travel. And it was like, we didn't even talk about that with them. What we focused on with them was the idea of traveling with young children in countries that don't speak primarily English. And they just loved to travel with their kids, and it was great, but it was something that we hadn't thought about at all in terms of diversity.
Yeah. And I think that, for example, not every woman is going to think the same. Again, I'm only speaking for myself. I want to have a family, I want to get married, and I want to travel. So I believe I can have it all, and I will have it all when and if that time comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know I have girlfriends, from all walks of life who don't want to have kids, and that is their choice, and they just don't want to have kids. Maybe they want to get married, but they don't want kids. So everybody is different. So again, going back to, there's no one size fits all. There's no one box all. And that is the thing that I like to speak about when I travel, especially, is like, we're put in all these little boxes. I'm like, no, do not put me in a box,
Yep.
So.
Yeah. With women specifically, when it comes to travel, we've uncovered this. We've talked about this before, but there's this stigma that you can't do it because it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Women can't be alone. It's going to be harder for women to navigate certain countries or certain environments. And I do think that women need to watch their back more than men because of men. But at the same time, there's a ton of information out there now. And
Right.
There's a lot of people like yourself that are helping women learn the ropes and what it's like to be a solo traveler specifically.
Yeah.
And that it's okay to do it.
Yeah.
You should do it.
You should. I mean, I'm really grateful. I've traveled to Mexico City since I was a young girl, spent the summers with my grandparents. However, I have lived abroad and I have studied abroad in Italy. I worked and lived in Australia by myself. And I purposely took trips by myself to grow that muscle because it is a fear that I had as a woman. I would be at a restaurant or waiting at the gate, and maybe a man will say, "Hey, are you here by yourself?" I mean, I don't know how many guys ask you that or women ask you that, but that's really not a very comforting question.
Is that really
Um,
asked?
yeah.
Like, that's not just from the movies. That is,
Or it's or it can be asked in different ways, like, "Oh, are you here with someone?" Or, "Oh, where's your husband? Where's your boyfriend?" I mean, there's different ways that you can be asked the same question. But when I was younger, I was more naive, and I would say, "Yeah, I'm here." La, la, la. As I grew and I matured and I learned, I don't have to answer that. B, if I choose to, or I chose to, I would say, "Oh yeah, I'm here visiting the prime minister. I'm here visiting the president. I'm here," and you see them just be like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I definitely have been asked that in many different ways, very creative ways as well. I have to say, men are very creative. But ultimately, as a woman, especially traveling alone, safety is key for sure. I never really tell anyone I'm traveling alone. I don't make it very public because, unfortunately, there's not always good people out there.
Mhm.
And I have been followed before, but the one time I was followed was in broad daylight in New York City. And I was followed for 2 blocks. And I had to run to the first guy I saw walking a dog and say I'm being followed. And he helped me. I mean, it can happen anywhere. It can happen here in the States as
Yeah.
well. So wherever you are, even in your own town, you have to, be mindful and be vigilant wherever you are. And yeah, that's something I'm always learning over and over again.
One of the things we discussed prior to actually starting the show and a little bit of the pre-talk was about this idea that people don't really understand disabilities or have an idea of how a disability impacts someone until they themselves are disabled. And they don't necessarily think about it in everyday life. But it's one thing that, this is actually how Bob and I met, is through doing disability ADA studies of different stores in New York City. And we spent 2 weeks analyzing stores for ADA compliance throughout three different boroughs of New York City there aisles wide enough? Are there auditory responses for people that are deaf? Are there auditory responses for people that are blind? Are signs high enough so that someone blind doesn't hit their head? And all of these things are, part of my daily life now because I work in the design field for construction. So I have to make sure things are built for everyone to access. And in my undergraduate studies, we did a lot of these conceptual perspective renderings, and without a doubt, people would always put in like these beautiful projects would only have white people in it. And it wasn't until my last year, my 5th year there, that someone asked, like, does this project is it really for just white people, or is there more representation that this project would feed? Like, it was a project in Brooklyn and it's all white people. That doesn't make any sense. It would be mixed.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that are outdated. When I travel to certain places like landmarks, I would think about people, for example, with physical disabilities. It was always in the back of my mind, but it's something that in every industry, I think, can improve, right? In every way. Just there's so much that we can all improve on, bringing awareness to, but having conversations like this definitely helps.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think about that all the time when I go hiking. And I look at the trail systems in the national parks and I'm like, there is no way anyone with a disability that is not able to walk on their own would be able to do these. And there are, actually one of our past guests is Eric Weinmeier. He went blind at, I think, 14, but he has basically devoted the last 10 years of his life to helping people with physical disabilities continue their life and be outdoors.
Wow.
And he was, the first blind guy to hike Everest. He was the second blind guy to kayak the Grand Canyon. And now he helps people and guides people on these different expeditions. And it's called No Barriers. And it's
Amazing.
awesome.
That's so inspiring. I mean, yeah, that is so inspiring how people can help others. And I went to Fall Creek Falls earlier this year, which is in Tennessee, a park. And I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the lookout. It had a sign. It was made for people who are colorblind. So colorblind can look into this and they are able to see all the colors. It was magical. And I actually know someone who's colorblind, and I mentioned it to him. He was like, I cannot wait to go, because you will be able to see it from literally a whole different lens and perspective.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is always room for improvement, and I'm happy to see that for sure.
So speaking of perspective, do you have any tips or ways people can enhance or increase their perspective or change their perspective on these things? So someone who might be white and might be living in a world where they don't think about what it's like to be a minority or a woman or someone with a disability, how do you have tips that they can be more involved or change their perspective? Because I feel like that is sort of at the foundation of the change overall.
Yeah, I think as individuals, we can all do more. I think constantly reaching out, meeting new people, going to events. I mean, maybe now it's more virtual because we're in the pandemic, but get out of your comfort zone. I mean, if you're like, for us, for example, we're always in travel. Maybe go into something else, attend an event that's not travel related, and get uncomfortable and meet people who are doing different things. And that's something I've been doing for sure during the pandemic. I actually love being uncomfortable. I love constantly being uncomfortable, which forces me to grow. And that is what I love. And I think that's what travel does. It forces you to grow. It makes you uncomfortable because you're not in your little bubble or your comfort zone. So if you can't physically travel, which a lot of us cannot do at this moment due to the pandemic, virtually attend webinars, go to virtual conferences. I just recently joined Clubhouse, which is an app. It's an app. I know. I just found out about 2 weeks ago. So Clubhouse is an app, which is like a live talk radio show-ish, but it's live, and you start a talk or group. You can tune in and off, but it's an invite-only app. So you have to be invited. So I was just invited like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know about it, and now I know. So you literally can listen to people talking about subjects of all different subjects from all over the world, everything from cooking to speaking to, I mean, you name it, there's talks about everything. And it's kind of as addicting because you would just scroll down and you listen to people talking about different things, and you could push request, like raise your hand, and they'll call you. Like, it's kind of like a radio show too.
Yeah.
So that is something cool and different. It's called Clubhouse, and I'm uncomfortable sometimes because I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but that makes me grow and learn. Reading, meeting new people. I mean, just constantly trying to learn and improve and grow. I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I am in like many book clubs. I'm always ordering new books. I love reading. I think that's another way you can learn and grow. So there's just so many different avenues, right? Yeah. I think not trying is not enough. It's not good enough. Like we're
Yes.
now in the age of like, just ignorance is just not accepted anymore.
No,
So
it's not. And we kind of talked about that in our travel roundtable. It was that, yeah, just because people don't know that they're doing something wrong doesn't give them a pass.
right. Yeah. I think we are in the age of, that is no longer good enough. Like we cannot just sit and yeah, we have to keep moving and we have to have uncomfortable conversations, but that we're going to grow and learn and hopefully come together more.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the resources that I really, really love that helps me get out of my comfort zone, and they have to be done right, are movies. And some of the best movies in the world are the ones that make you uncomfortable, the ones that touch on really gritty subjects that you don't want to talk about in everyday life. And those just, I mean, it may not be a conversation that you can have with a real person, but at least it's coming from someone else's experience, and you get an idea of what it's like. You feel the emotions, you see the emotions. We were talking a little bit before the show about superhero films lately and the apparent lack of representation from minorities and from women. And Wonder Woman, for example, is one of my wife's favorite movies now. And she said to me after we watched it, she's like, "This was so exciting because I could see myself in her shoes. Now I understand why guys like action films so much, because every single action film typically has a male lead."
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's beautiful how you said about in movies, because they're young girls watching, right?
Yeah.
There's young girls. I have two nieces, and a lot of the reason why I do what I do as well is because I want them to know that they can do anything they want. I want them to have more positive role models. I'm not in a bikini, on Instagram, be like, "Hi, everybody." Like I'm saying, we are much more than just our bodies. We have a brain. We're smart. We're talented. We can do and work in any way we want to. We're not limited by the physical. And I think that's why representation is so important as a woman, to future generations, that we're putting that message out there.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, with a young daughter now, I paid attention to that stuff more than I ever have in my entire life. And yeah, something that I'm pretty happy about. National Geographic is teaming up with, I think, Barbie, and they're making so they're making Barbies that are ecologists and marine biologists.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, that's great.
Engineers and like animal conservationists and all these different things that, all things that I've been interested in my entire life that I've found representation in. Apparently there was no representation for women. And I didn't know that growing up as a kid. That it's not something I guess a young boy thinks about, but seeing that coming out now made me pretty happy.
It's so beautiful. And my brother has a young girl, one of my nieces, and his whole world changed when she came into his life. And I think that I don't have children yet, but it's one of my biggest dreams. And I just want to do as much as I can for my future children. So that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so do you have examples of where it's gotten easier for minorities or people with disabilities to travel and exist in the travel world?
Yeah, and I even think the term minority, a lot of publications are no longer going to use that term moving forward in 2021. Just like, I forget what other terms are going to, like, for example, this year, if you want to write about you want to write about Black people, you have to capitalize the B. Really subtle but important changes are being made, for example, in the media world. The National Association of Native Americans has their own guidelines and their own, handbook of a lot of things. National Association of Hispanic Journalists, which I'm a part of, the organization, I'm a member. We had so many different things that happened this year. So even the term, for example, somebody asked me earlier today, I was on an interview about Latinx, and that's a whole term it's a newer term.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 20 or so years old. But there's a debate about it. Latinx. Do we say Latino? Do we say Hispanic? Do we say Latinx? It's a debate. Some people say yes, some people say no. It's out there though. It's being used. And I was on a conference for Latino journalists, and there were two professors who were Latinas, and I asked them, what is the correct way? And they said, ask your source how they want to be identified. So that helped a lot, because some people would prefer maybe other ways, but I think even the term minority is changing, and a lot of publications are not going to use it anymore, because who is the minority? I read an article, I believe it was in Business Insider, I don't remember which publication, but there was an article that said by 2045, the minority will be the majority. So when you say minority going forward, who are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
So things are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I guess you would have to ask the individual and then go from there.
So I think that kind of wraps it back into the original talk, is that you can't put anybody into a box, and that everyone is their own individual.
Yeah. And like I was saying, even from my perspective, my background, I'm an individual. So I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking from myself. But when I say I'm on a lot of Latino, Hispanic panels, as you all saw this year in the U.S. election, we are not monolith. Mm-hmm. You cannot put all Latinos, Hispanics in one box. We vote differently. We come from different regions. I mean, that is something we have to dive deeper, right? And not just put everyone in a box, because we're
just
so
lazy,
diverse.
Right? It's lazy.
It is lazy.
It's a very lazy way to categorize people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, it shouldn't be categorizations. I think that's the point. Yeah. Categorization is racism.
I don't understand how we ever get to a point where we don't categorize people. Like, I feel like we're incapable as humans of doing that.
I think labeling is part of this age of data, right? You have to label to track data. And I think you're not going to have all of the information about that person when you have the data. So there's going to be a label to it no matter what.
Yeah. And I think it's, there are a lot of people that are working towards this and that are making improvements, but I think it's about bringing awareness to this, which is a lot of people may have not known, right? I don't know, but I know one thing is racism is it does exist, unfortunately, and I have experienced it at some point in my life, whether directly or indirectly, in some way, shape, or form. And I just think that racism is taught. Nobody's born racist. Nobody. They're doing a lot of studies and all of this, and I just think it's really sad. And I think that we can change, we can make progress in that. But again, it's going to take individuals.
Yeah. But I think it's important to realize that even if we do have labels for ourselves, like I know I'm a white male and those are identifiers for me, but that's not all of who I am. So we're going to have pieces of information about every single person, but I think it's going to be up to every single individual to not make the determination of who they are before they actually meet them. There will be some inferences that we make based on some of the information we have, but we can't use those to predispose what we think of them.
Yeah. And I think as individuals, just starting with mutual respect, for each other, and that is a good start, mutual respect, and the wanting to learn about you, because I want to learn about you, your family, your roots. I'm sure you have a fascinating story. You have something to teach me. I have something to teach you. It's about the mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mindset that I come from. And that's the mindset that I love, because I feel like you both have something to teach me about life, about your story, your journey. I can learn from you. You can learn from me.
Yeah.
It's a mutual thing. It's not like we all have something to add to this bucket. We all have things to contribute. And that is why I don't understand why we have to divide and separate and blah, blah, blah. And like,
Yeah.
I just don't understand that.
I think that's the ultimate euphoria, right? Or ultimate utopia is the understanding that if you and I help each other, we get to a better place that we could have ever done on our own. And it's going to be absolutely a better place than if we fight for something to be better than the other person or take from the other person.
Yeah. And I think in my perspective is personal belief is I think we're all equal. I don't think anyone is above or below or whatever. I think we're all, worthy and valuable. We all deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. I mean, I really, truly believe that. I mean, that's just the way I come from. Again, I'm one person, but I hope in my lifetime that I can inspire and empower people to be the best versions of themselves, because when you're the best version of yourself and you're the best version of yourself, you have more to offer the world, and vice versa. I mean,
it seems like there.
Go ahead.
Well, it seems like there are two fronts to this. I don't know if you want to call it a battle, but this movement. One is dealing with the issue, the people that are trying to hold on to what used to be and what currently is in some situations, the negative. And then you have the movement of integrating people of different cultural backgrounds and races and genders into the travel world. So you have to almost simultaneously push both to, and progress that way. Do you see, is one a priority over the other? Do you think it's more important to just focus on integrating women and minorities and people with disabilities into, let's just say, the travel world? Or is it a foundational issue? Do we attack it from at the base and work our way up?
I mean, I think this issue is beyond the travel industry. I think it's a humanity issue. It's a global issue. I mean, I believe that there's a lot of opportunities for everyone to improve and to contribute to this movement. I don't think it's, for me, it's much more beyond than just the travel industry. But the reason why I focus on travel is because travel is a way to break all the isms. Travel is a way to unite people. Travel is a way to teach people to learn and to grow. So as a young girl, I found that was my way to unite humanity. Essentially, I found a way to unite travel and me as a bridge to the world, essentially. So I kind of known since I was a young girl my purpose. I didn't know exactly how it was going to be, but I mean, I know that this isn't it. I know there's much, much more to come. And it's beyond me. Like, it's not about me at the end of the day. Like, I am doing what I'm doing for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
It's it's not about me. And I think we're coming from that also this year. We're coming from that perspective. I mean, how can we make a difference? How can we, it's not me, it's we.
Mm-hmm. Bob and I were chatting yesterday, and I think, Bob, you were talking about Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and one of the speeches they gave is that, we're all, every single one of us that is alive today has been given a gift of life, right? We didn't choose it, but it was given to us anyway. And we are all going to die. And that is a fact of life. And what we choose to do with it is very important. Like, it's no different. None of us, the three of us talking right now, are no different. We have come from nothing and we will go back to nothing. And the idea that each of us individually is and can be great, but the three of us working together could do something that adds up to more than the individuals.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. And it's so true. And that's why I go back. It starts with each one of us, right? But together we can do more. We can create more magic, more movement, more awareness. And I think that's kind of the message, like, to the world, like, let's do this together.
Yeah.
I think the travel industry too is a great area for this, because the more people travel, like world travelers are sort of ambassadors for cultural diversity, right? It's sort of what they preach. I don't know many travelers who don't enjoy experiencing new cultures. And so the more people you have travel, the more cultural ambassadors are out there, whatever you want to call it.
I love that.
Was it Preston? I think it was Preston that said no one has ever come back from travel.
No, it was Kirsty.
Oh, yes. Kirsty.
Mm-hmm.
Kirsty from On Airplane Mode. She was talking about travel and how no travelers come back from their trip and been more closed-minded.
Yeah.
It's so true. And that's why I'm also a huge advocate for the youth. And I speak at a lot of colleges, even virtually this year. I spoke at my alma mater. I speak at a lot of universities about travel, about study abroad, why it's important, why, it is another form of education when you're able to live and study in a different country. Mm-hmm. I think I look back and I wish I would have traveled more, done more, but we are where we are. At any age, if you can travel, of course, safely, and once the pandemic, subsides and we have a better situation, I feel like travel is such a gift to yourself and to everybody. And I love to see, I honestly just love to see people travel, because I know even if I'm not traveling, I get just as excited as them, because I know they're going to have a life-changing experience. They're going to meet people, they're going to grow, they're going to learn. And that's how I know I love what I love. And it's so deep rooted. It's not about me. It's about a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And that's why when people meet me and they don't know who I am, they don't know my journey, they may have all these assumptions or ideas. But until they get to know me, they're like, oh shit, she really loves this. Like, this is her life. This is not about being famous or being whatever Instagram. I don't care. It's about purpose. It's about impact, legacy. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, even in the toughest times. It's like, I still got to do this, because going back to your why, what is your why? And that is my why. To make this world a better place through travel, to bring more inclusion, to bring more representation, to be a woman who's breaking more glass ceilings in other ways. So that's what keeps me going.
It's a beautiful mission. Where could people join you in this?
How can we join you?
Yes.
Yeah. Very
excited. No, I love it, because, as you can see from me, I'm a balcony person. I love to uplift people. I love to empower them, to uplift them, encourage them. And especially if it's about travel. So the whole reason why I put Jet Set with Jeanette, like I was telling you earlier, is to include you with me. So you can find me pretty much anywhere, my website, Instagram. It's Jet Set with Jeanette, and it's with 2 N's, everybody. And my email is travel@jetsetwithjeanette.com. 2 N's again. I don't get a lot of emails because sometimes people put 1 N, believe it or not. And
1 N, 2 T's.
2 N and 2 T.
Sorry. That's my name. 1 L, 2 T's. That's what I always say. Yours is 2 N's, 2 T's.
My 2 N's, 2 T's. Yes, yes. So you find me there, and I'm always happy. I love when people reach out to me. I love to see people traveling, and I love to see you guys, doing your thing, and sharing people's stories. I think it's great. So
yeah. Thank you for sharing yours today. But before we let you go, we have the rapid fire round.
Okay.
And so we are going to ask you 12 questions, and just answer, I guess, as quickly as you can. The first thing
Okay.
that comes to your mind. You don't have to. You can contemplate.
Some
it
of
a
them you
little
can
bit.
think about.
Right? Yeah. We don't want to force you to just blurt anything out.
Okay.
it will be recorded and permanent. But
Okay.
Elliot, do you want to go first?
I will go first. All right, Jeanette. What is the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the word travel?
France.
What home comfort do you miss the most while traveling?
My bed.
All right. You must have a really nice bed.
Yeah.
If you could swim it in any liquid, what would it be?
If I could swim in any liquid,
Yeah.
champagne.
Oh,
Ooh, that's a first.
I'm going with that answer.
No one has,
that's an awesome one.
who would win in a fight? An accountant or a banker?
Ooh. Oh. Accountant?
All right. Would you rather drink wine or coffee for the rest of your life?
Wine. And I'm 7 days strong without coffee. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So definitely wine.
All right. Say hello in your favorite language.
Hola.
If you can travel with anyone in the world, living or dead, who would it be?
That's a tough one. It's between my future partner, who I may or may not know, or Oprah. Oprah.
Oh,
Oprah would be a pretty
Oprah,
solid
yeah.
travel partner. She would be pretty, especially if she's paying for the entire thing.
But I'm obsessed with Oprah. Like
Yeah.
she's one of the only people in my life I've been starstruck by. Or I am. Yeah.
have you met her?
We've crossed paths. We were at the same place, but I have not physically formally met her yet.
Yet. That's an
Yes.
important word.
I
there.
like
Yes.
it.
But we have a lot of I interned at a TV station that was one of her first reporting jobs in Nashville, CBS, and she went to TSU. And so we have a little crossing paths, so I'm hoping that manifests.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What is one item remaining on your bucket list?
Item
Yeah, one. Yeah.
or destination or
Either.
Yeah,
Either. If you want to
anything.
pick travel or if it could be anything related to life.
Oh, I want to have a family. Oh, biological maybe or adopted children one day. Oh, cute.
We need a
We'll have that.
soundtrack.
I
Yeah.
like a radio station that has all those buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could pick someone to play you in a movie, who would you choose?
Wow, that is such a good question. Salma Hayek.
Oh,
It's a good one.
that is a
I like
good
that
one.
Yeah. If you were stuck in one city for the rest of your life, which city would you choose?
Paris.
Yes, the city of light.
Yeah.
Jeannette and Paris. The new show.
I like it. If you owned a yacht, what would you name it?
Oh, that's a good question. Isla, which means island in Spanish.
All right.
Oh, nice. All right, last question. What is one piece of advice you would give the decade younger version of yourself?
Oh my God, you guys are making me cry. I would say it's twofold. I would say love yourself. This is pretty long. I would say love yourself. You are enough, and believe in yourself. And there's nothing you have to prove to be loved.
I think that is all great advice. I think
That
that's
is.
great advice for you to take now. But yeah,
It's not too late to take that advice.
Yeah, at any point
It took me
in
30
anyone's
years.
life. Yeah.
Took me a while, but
Yeah.
once you get it, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Well, Jeanette, thank you for coming on the podcast today. We appreciate your time today. We appreciate what you're doing. It's very interesting. It's an amazing thing, and we got hooked onto it through Instagram. And I know we kind of talked about that before the show, but you are making a splash in the travel world, and it got our attention. And and thank you for coming on and sitting down with us today.
Thank you. It's been so fun. It's been great getting to know you guys, and my pleasure. Always happy to be here, a resource, and hopefully our paths will cross again.
Yes, in the physical
I hope
world.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some
For
point.
sure.
Yeah. If you're ever in Philadelphia, let us know.
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Thank you.
like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, I really do hope we work with her again in the future. Her page, her social media is actually really good to follow as well, really informative. And she's so busy and active in raising this inclusivity awareness. And it's really contagious, and I'm glad that we now have this relationship.
That's a good word, contagious, because it made me want to be more aware and more respectful and just more cognizant of the whole situation, because clearly as two white guys, we've had a lot of privilege in our life and when we travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I came across her page right around the time when we started doing the Travel Roundtables, which was the purpose of the Travel Roundtable.
Yep.
Series line was to be more inclusive and kind of get those conversations going. And just by default, by following new pages and trying to get more involved in that community myself, I came across her social media page and eventually asked her to come on the episode or the podcast.
And it's kind of funny because we even had a Travel Roundtable discussion on is social media killing travel. And this is one of the arguments in favor of it not killing travel and actually helping travel, because we found her through social media.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. If you love the podcast and you want to support us, you can do that through just rating us on iTunes or on any other podcast platform. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, on any other podcast. You can follow us on our website and social media. If you want to contribute to us financially, you can contribute through Patreon for $1 a month or up to $10 a month if you really, really enjoy the show, which would be absolutely phenomenal. It helps us pay for all of our subscriptions that help run the show.
And our time, right? How much do we spend per podcast?
Oh yeah, we estimated that every episode takes about 20 hours of work between finding the guest, editing, creating the outlines for each interview and episode, and then the editing, and then the distributing and fine-tuning and producing social media assets. So yeah, 20 hours a week is about what we spend on the show between the two of us.
Right, yeah. And we're not stopping anytime soon. But if you do feel it in your heart to want to contribute, we would also be very thankful of that. So maybe think about it. Christmas is just around the corner, as in whenever you're listening to this the following December.
Yes, it's always around the corner. So thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and tune in next week.